Well, how's everybody doing tonight? Well, I'm a little bit irritated today. I just got news from my wife. She's a nurse up at the hospital here in town, and I guess apparently there's talk that they might start the mandatory vaccination bullshit over there, which would cause her obviously to have to quit her job by December 4th. Now that's just so far just talk. She texted me. She's working tonight. So we'll see where that goes, and it's a good thing for our governor here in Iowa for at least signing into law whatever that where people who I guess lose their job over these vaccine mandates are able to get unemployment. So I don't, I'm not really for getting people, used to the lifestyle of being unemployed and to being dependent on the government for money and stuff like that. But I don't know. We're just in this situation where it's like at any time, somebody who's working now can, have to face either a shot or your job. It is absolutely incredible. Incredible. Never ever thought of, we saw this coming down the road, those of us who have researched this New World Order for many years. We've seen this coming in the guise of, whatever it would come, like a totalitarian in-your-face police state, militarized police state, or overseeing now medical tyranny, or whatever form this tyranny was going to take. We knew tyranny was coming down the road at some point. And, it's just so sickening, I just hope my job doesn't start pulling that bullshit too. That's why we need to be ready for whatever shit's going to be coming down. Sooner or later it'll be can't buy or sell without. People are so stupid. But anyways, aside from that, I want to further document the treason, the tyranny, the global tyranny, the conspiracy of a new world order. But not just the secret societies and fraternal orders, but the Vatican. I never really done many videos with the Vatican in my main channel, Alan Bradwell. I had exposed, showed a video of a Jesuit home video, whatever, where Jesuits are talked about, being a part of bringing about the New World Order. You can go look it up on my main channel. This is from Globalization, Justice, and Charity, and we went through the videos before. We know that the socialists love to use the words justice, charity, and they like to use the Alice Baileys, the Karl Marx. They like to use those words to basically sell their idea. Take from the rich, give to the poor. It's not really taking from the real rich, is it, and giving it to the poor. No, it's what they mean by the rich is really the lower middle classes, just the middle class in general. Taking from the middle class and utterly destroying the middle class. So that way there's only two classes, the rulers and the ruled. That's really what they mean in all their fucking bullshit. Is that. So, but anyways, this is a presentation to Asia Group Meeting Luncheon by Indonesia by H.E. Metzinger. Looks like a priest title right in the Vatican. Marcelo Sanchez Serrando, Chancellor of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences. Globalization, Justice, and Charity. Presented to Asia Group Meeting Luncheon by Indonesia. I already read that. Okay, this is the first page. So I'll be doing a number of videos reading from this, just to further document. That way, there's no denying it anymore. Those who can visit my channel will either go back to sleep or face the facts. Face the facts, and the facts are showing. So we better wake up, prepare for the hardships that probably will be coming. Okay. The phenomenon of globalization. The human family has acquired a new awareness about its unity and integration and global interdependence. Interdependence being a code word for, again, globalization. And it's a New World Order code word, as you probably already know. Globalization is the defining characteristic of our time. Time and space are shrinking, and many borders are disappearing. Oh, I thought that was just a conspiracy theory. Giving rise to an increasing interdependence between economies, cultures, religions, and people. Religions. New world religion. This new world order, which emerged fully after 1989 with the collapse of European communism, is a dynamic and dialectic process. Dialectic. That makes me think of the Hegelian dialectic. Dialectic process. If you've heard of the Hegelian dialectic, go look it up. It's when you want a solution. The elites want a solution, New World Order, so they'll create like this conflict with two sides, and those two sides are really set up and controlled by them, and whatever comes out of the two sides, the battle will, give birth to the real agenda that they had in mind the whole time. So just go look up the Hegelian dialectic if you haven't. Anyways, dialectic process whose characteristics have not been identified completely, but one which has brought with it a belief in lower trade barriers, an end to exchange controls, a freer movement of investment, capital, goods, and people, new forms of labor, and the displacement of public sector capital by the private sector. This latest historical stage has created new possibilities, opportunities, and raised new hopes for the world, especially for developing countries. In fact, technological innovations, especially information technology, telematics, the global satellite network, and the internet, the new forms of labor, expanding trade, and increased direct foreign investment offer enormous potential for the elimination of poverty, hunger, disease, and illiteracy during the millennium that has just started. Nevertheless, many of these potential benefits have not been realized so far for everyone and for the common good. There you have that word common good, and the last one I read, the common good. So we're starting to understand that is just another code word of theirs, to, define a sort of a collectivist system. Globalization has been driven by the rampant expansion of markets and financial systems not necessarily linked to production, leading to increasing levels of inequality in labor, income, resources, opportunities, and education. According to the latest Human Development Report, globalization in this phase has benefited only 1/5 of the world's population while marginalizing the rest. Therefore, we cannot but agree with what the United Nations Millennium Declaration says, quote, "We believe that the central challenge we face today is to ensure that globalization becomes a positive force for the entire world's people." Sorry, spit there. This is all the more evident after the atrocious terrorist acts of September 11, 2001 and its direct consequences. And again, whenever you're reading their stuff, always remember they're going to always try to be the good guys. So they're going to make it sound like they're the good guys. That they're trying to help the world, heal the world, make it a better place, blah, blah, blah. Or John Lennon's Imagine, and, well, see Planet Earth with a Band-Aid on it. It's a scam. In a certain sense, it seems that the world is now going through an experimental, highlight that word in your mind, experimental, dynamic, but chaotic stage. The collapse of Eastern European communism brought about the triumph of capitalism, but the latter is also a sick system. So again, it's not capitalist that this New World Order is going to be. Today we can criticize capitalism from within without necessarily being accused of being philo-communist. A market economy is the only system capable of producing enormous wealth. At the same time, however, it is the market economy itself that is responsible for causing massive levels of inequality and injustice, not least at a global level. Thus, a system combining both market laws and state intervention is needed. See, it's the merging of corporate and state. Is needed. A free market presupposes non-intervention. Justice, on the other hand, requires intervention. So it's this merging of communism and capitalism. That's the dialect process he was talking about earlier in the last page. That'll bring about, the kind of the merging of kind of both. So a free market presupposes... Okay, I already read that. Okay, at the international level, the issues that arises is how to govern globalization. Or rather, in other words, according to the above-mentioned Millennium Declaration, what can be done to extend the benefits of globalization to everyone, or at the very least, to the majority of people? Globalization for all, a model for all. We are aware that there is more than one way to try to achieve this. Indeed, we suspect that it will be difficult for the developing world to embark on a journey based on the U.S. model. But the same can be said for Europe. What must be done is to achieve at the international level a form of redistribution, such as the one that such as the one that states implement, even if badly within their borders. There is no international body today that manages this redistribution. If redistribution within each state is difficult, it is all the more so at the international level, where the problem has not even been properly taken into consideration. The 70s were all about development and developmentalism, and institutions were set up for this reason, such as the World Bank, 1944, and the Inter-American Development Bank, 1959, but no one since has focused on international redistribution, that is, on doing justice in a world which is ever more globalized, and their justice, like I said, is just horseshit. This redistribution will just be a scam. They really go into the pockets of the globalists. They'll be the ones that really benefit out this redistribution. It's like the Klaus Schwab, saying that we'll be poor but we'll be happy. So everybody will be poor except for the tiny elite. Aware of the progressive disparity and inequality, in order to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger in the world, the rich nations have committed themselves to providing forms of aid which, although sporadic and relative, are a way to begin doing justice which we hope will increase and become more and more adequate. This commitment indicates a change, albeit an insufficient one. Between 1990 and 2001, official development aid went down from 0.33% to 0.22% of the GDP of the donor countries. On a positive note, however, last year the prolonged decline in official aid flows finally ended, reaching $57,000 million, again against $52,300 million in 2001. During the conference on financing for development held in Monterrey in 2002, both the rich and poor countries committed themselves to support the political reforms and the new resources necessary to reach the Millennium Development Goals, including the promise by the rich countries to give 0.7% of their GDP to public and for development, and to increase by $16,000 million the annual aid flows within the year 2006. However, even if the commitments announced in Monterey were fulfilled, total aid would continue to be very far from the minimum figure of $100,000 million needed each year, according to the recent report on human development in 2003. In fact, $50,000 million are still lacking. If things remain as they are, the fight against poverty is 100 years away from fulfilling its goals and promises as predicted by Gordon Brown, the British Chancellor of the Exchequer, who added, quote, "The richest countries cannot continue to establish goals without fulfilling them systematically and hoping that the poorest countries calmly continue to believe in us," unquote. In a world which is ever more globalized, actions within national borders are not sufficient, and international cooperation is necessary for the common good. For the rich countries, fulfilling their commitments is an ethical issue. This is not benevolence but justice. Justice is, as we shall see, the main virtue of a policy aimed at achieving the common good. Justice is the way to peace and social good. I very much bear in mind that the declaration of the Supreme Pontiff, the first Polish Pope in history, to the effect that peace is born not only from the elimination of theaters of war. Even if all these latter were eliminated, others would inevitably appear if injustice and oppression continue to govern the world. Peace is born of justice, and whatever he said in his Latin, whatever, opus, and it's spelled I-U-S-T-I-T-I-A-E and Pax. Anyways, whatever. Just as one can say, just as one can say that all research should be directed towards truth, I agree with that. So human society, to be truly human, cannot but have another goal, that of justice. Thus social good passes through justice. In a realistic climate, St. Thomas Aquinas affirms that the attraction towards good and towards a just relationship with other people has priority over all the other figures of conscience and is the beginning of the ethical dimension. Man has a natural inclination to know the truth about God and to live in society, and in this respect, whatever pertains to this inclination belongs to the natural law. For instance, to shun ignorance, to avoid offending those among whom one has to live, and other such things regarding the above inclination. So this inclination constitutes a natural impulse to the knowledge of God on the one hand, and to the primordial instance to achieve social life by means of justice on the other. That is, justice is the way to social good, ever more so in our globalized world. Of course, justice means first and foremost giving each person his due. As the old Latin adage says, it's another, I think, words in Latin. So I'm trying to... I think what he means here, because this is in a different language, but there's a footnote down here at the bottom. I think this is it. Whatever he's wrote up here, it's interpreted as, "It is justice that renders to each one what is his, and claims not another's property. It disregards its own profit in order to preserve the common equity." But down here, in the footnotes down here, it's another interesting quote here. "While a part as such belongs to a whole, so that whatever is the good of a part can be directed to the good of the whole, it follows therefore that the good of any virtue, whether such virtue direct man in relation to himself or in relation to certain other individual persons, is referable to the common good to which justice directs, so that all acts of virtue can pertain to justice insofar as it directs man to the common good." So, they have this, again, these are just code words, that and sustainability, and, it's all a part of that, Each one is a distributive pronoun, because the proper act of justice is nothing else than to render to each one his own. Justice, writes John Rawls at the beginning of A Theory of Justice, is the first prerequisite of social institutions, as truth is of the systems of thought. This statement seems to be more in agreement with Plato's concept of justice than with Aristotle's. Justice is the virtue of everything in the Republic, while in the Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle considers distributive justice as a special or partial justice with relation to general justice, which is fundamentally respect for the laws of the city. Why a partial virtue? First of all, because the equality of distributive justice is not of an arithmetic nature, as is commutative justice, but of a proportional nature, i.e., it is an equality of relations between people and goods. I.e., the relations of a person to a good must be analogous to the relation of another person to another good. Moreover, it is partial because distributive justice deals with the specific situation of the repartition or distribution of goods, honors, and advantages. Today we would include, as Rawls states, both commercial goods, i.e. energy, water, food, salaries, property, social benefits, and non-commercial ones, i.e. citizenship, security, health, education, honors, including the roles of command, authority, and responsibility carried out within the framework of all kinds of institutions, whether private or public, national or international. Therefore, this is a matter not only of distributing the material goods of the world, but also the goods of the spirit, that which is more specifically human, for as Aristotle observes, the human race lives by art and reasoning. However, why does the philosopher consider distribution only a part of justice? Probably because he wants to prevent us from thinking of society as a distributor of parts, which is always an act of separation in order to determine which part goes to one and which to the other, when in actual fact society is mainly a whole. Society must be understood as a cooperation scheme. It's got the word scheme right. An expression which we find right from the opening lines of Rawls' A Theory of Justice, a book which, in any case, the analysis of society as a distribution system prevails. Today it is necessary to take into serious consideration a notion of the common good again, consisting in goods and values that are participated and shared by possibly active subjects in the global society. You know, like the mainstream tells us, it's just a conspiracy theory. On the other hand, we may see in the metaphor of distribution the two aspects that must be coordinated because in actual fact they belong to each other. Repartition is something which divides us because my part is not yours, but at the same time, repartition is something which forces us to share. In the strong sense of the word, be part of, take part in. Urged by economic worries, today we tend to forget that, unlike material goods, these spiritual goods, which are properly human, expand and multiply when communicated, i.e., unlike the visible goods, spiritual goods such as knowledge, values, and education are indivisible, and the more one shares them, the more one possesses of them. Ending world hunger. And that's the part that I'm on. Wow, this really kind of... I don't know, I think I could probably kind of finish this off with my second video, possibly, if I go... So... I will, actually end this video. Oh boy. Finish this up because I'm getting a little bit on the tired side. I don't know. Sometimes I tend to make better videos when I'm obviously less tired, and tonight sometimes it just feels like I'm a little bit off. I'm like, you know, it's and that and being really irritated over all this horse shit with the vaccine mandates, but we know it's just inevitable. They're just not going to quit until we rise up. And, but that's, what we're witnessing today. That is really their peace plan. That is really their love, liberal, charity, peace, imagine no borders, imagine, no religion, imagine just a one world communist utopia, where, you'll have privileges, you'll be children of the state, but in exchange for that, you have to give up your individual liberty, your individual rights, your property, and you have to share, and nothing wrong with sharing, I suppose, like to be nice to your neighbor or share, but again, they take these words and then use them to sell people who choose to be a part of what they call the masses. I don't like to use the word masses myself, but unfortunately people have become people who are still dumbasses in the dark, who choose to be in the dark and who choose to be dumbasses. Those people have chosen to become a part of what the elites call the masses, because they're no longer individuals. They want to sacrifice their own individuality for the common good, as this COVID-19 thing has shown with many of these pro-Biden, pro-big government, pro-vaccine mandate people, is that we need this vaccine mandate for the common good. We need, to make sure that, some liberals, depending on how radical you get, I wouldn't be surprised if you'll find a couple of them calling to put people like me and you, my wife, into some kind of jail or something because we're part of, we're criminals now, because, they're so bought into the fear. And I don't want to say too much, right, because I don't want to get this video taken down. If it gets taken down, I'll make another one, but I'm not sure if the music that I played earlier, that was the Terminator theme. I thought it was kind of fitting. Like I said, I'm choosing music that fits the content that I'm reading. But with what I just talked about here, isn't that something? YouTube will take people's videos down if they just say that, if they just disagree. If they just disagree with what's going on, and my God, these sons of bitches. Sons of bitches. Well, I'm going to make a second video to this, so